The ground screams before the machine even touches it. I feel it in the soles of my feet, a vibration that has nothing to do with the industrial bulldozer grinding across the black stone courtyard 50 yards ahead of me. That rumble is mechanical, predictable. The thing pulsing beneath it is older than any engine, older than this estate, older than the name Earner chiseled above every iron gate on this land, like a warning I was never meant to ignore. I shouldn't be here. The outskirts are 30 minutes behind me, and the king doesn't invite outcasts to watch him work. But my wolf didn't ask my permission this morning. At 4:47 a.m., she snapped me out of sleep with a sound inside my chest I still don't have a word for. Not a howl, not a warning. A grief, ancient and specific, and aimed like a blade directly at this courtyard. So here I stand, uninvited, again. The story of my life since he decided I wasn't worth keeping. I see him before the machines start their second pass. Max Earner stands at the far edge of the demolition perimeter in a charcoal suit that has no business being this close to construction dust. Arms crossed, jaw set, watching his machines dismantle his own history. Like a man who has already decided the past doesn't deserve to survive. He hasn't looked in my direction. He never does anymore. But my body reacts to his presence the way it always has. The way I've spent 3 years training it not to. A pull low in my sternum, a wrongness in my lungs, the mate bond scar tissue stretching over an injury that never fully healed. I drag my eyes away. The bulldozer's blade strikes the obsidian altar at the center of the ruins, and something cracks that isn't stone. My vision floods amber. My hands are already moving, ahead of any conscious instruction, carrying me toward the pit splitting open beneath the machine's tracks. I drop to my knees at the edge. I claw at black soil. My fingers hit something cold and wrong and calling, not to my mind, not even to my wolf, to something underneath both of them, something I didn't know existed until this exact second. I pull. The silver comes up glowing, heavy, chained. Behind me, the machines fall silent. And then, his voice, low, controlled, the voice of a man who has never once had to raise it to be obeyed. Sabrina! A beat, the kind that means he's calculating. Don't you dare! I don't stop. My fingers close around the shackles, and the metal pulses against my palms like a second heartbeat, old and furious, and mine in a way nothing on this estate has ever been mine. Because I already know it in the marrow of me. These shackles weren't designed to keep something out. They were designed to keep the true king in. And the man standing behind me with ice in his voice and fear behind his eyes is not him. 3 years ago, Max Earner looked at me across the full moon ceremony with the entire pack watching, and he said the words, "I reject you as my mate." 6 words, flat as a blade. He didn't flinch while delivering them. He didn't even hold my gaze for the full duration. Like I wasn't worth the complete attention it took to unmake me. He looked somewhere past my left ear, spoke his 6 words into the cold October air, seer, and turned back to his counsel as though he'd simply declined a business offer that wasn't worth his time. The bond didn't break cleanly. That's what they don't tell you. They talk about mate rejection like it's a door closing. Clean, decisive, done. What it actually is closer to an amputation performed without anesthetic, on a limb you didn't know carried half your weight until it was gone. I felt the severance move through me in a wave that started in my chest and radiated outward until even my fingernails hurt. My wolf went silent for 11 days. Not dormant, silent. The way a person goes silent when they've been told something so catastrophic that language stops being available. I rebuilt myself in that silence. Slowly. Badly. With the kind of patchwork dignity that leaves visible seams. I moved to the pack outskirts because staying inside the estate's social orbit meant watching him conduct his life. His meetings, his acquisitions, his deliberate indifference. At close range, the shack I occupy sits at the eastern tree line where the manicured Erner grounds bleed into untamed forest. It is small. It is cold in winter. The pack hierarchy ensures I receive the minimum allocation of resources and Omega is entitled to by law and nothing above it. I have learned not to want more than the minimum. This is what the mate bond does when it's severed on one side only. When his wolf chose me and he overruled it. It leaves the other person stranded in a permanent almost. Not fully bonded. Not fully free. Just tethered to something that refuses to fully let go. No matter how many times you remind yourself that wanting him is the same as asking a knife to apologize for the cut. My hands are shaking. I notice this now, crouched at the lip of the excavation pit with the silver shackles locked between my palms, the machines gone quiet around me, the construction crew frozen in a loose semicircle like they're trying to decide whether I'm dangerous or just unhinged, maybe both. The shackles pulse against my skin in that slow, deliberate rhythm. Thumb, thumb, thumb. And the amber is still bleeding at the edges of my vision, my wolf pressing forward with an urgency I haven't felt from her in 3 years. She was dormant for 11 days after the rejection. She has been waiting for this one. I should get up. I should put distance between myself and this courtyard, this estate. Then this man standing behind me with his measured silence and his expensive suit and the particular way he says my name, like it's a problem he's deciding how to solve. My legs don't move. My wolf looks at the shackles in my hands and says, in the wordless language of pure animal certainty, "Not yet. They let me keep the shackles, not out of generosity. Max Erner didn't build a billion-dollar empire by being generous. His security team holds position at the perimeter. 4 of them, Ironclaw Syndicate uniforms. The kind of tactical stillness that means they're waiting for an instruction that hasn't come yet. Max is still behind me. I can feel him the way I always feel him. That low atmospheric pressure change. Like the air rearranges itself around his presence and doesn't bother asking anyone's permission first. He hasn't given the order to take them from me. Which means he's thinking. And a thinking Max Erner is considerably more dangerous than a reactive one. I use the silence to look at what I'm actually holding. The shackles are heavy, heavier than the size should allow, and made of a silver so old it has gone dark at the joints, oxidized to the color of a bruise. The chain between them is roughly 18 inches of interlocking links, each one stamped with a mark I don't fully recognize but almost do. The way you almost recognize a word in a language you learned as a child and spent years forgetting. The cuffs themselves are wide, built for wrists larger than mine. Built, my wolf keeps insisting with increasing intensity, for an alpha. And then there's the glow. It's faint. A teal luminescence living deep in the metal. So, like bioluminescence at the bottom of something dark and cold. It pulses with the same rhythm I've been feeling since I pulled them from the earth. I watch it for a moment, and then, without entirely meaning to, I press my thumb to the inner curve of the left cuff. The glow doubles, just for a second, just in response to the specific pressure of my thumb. Not the crew standing 15 feet away. Not the enforcer shifting his weight to my left. Me. I pull my hand back. The pit is still open beneath me. A rough wound in the black stone floor. Maybe 8 feet deep. The sides shearing down past the foundation layer of the ruins into what looks like a deliberate chamber beneath. The bulldozer's blade must have struck the seal from above and fractured it. I can see the edges of what it broke. A circular stone disc, thick as a door, covered on the underside with runes carved so densely they become a texture rather than a language. Blood dark staining in the channels of the carvings. Old blood, very old. I go down. I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. But my wolf is already moving, and I am. Less the one making decisions than the one documenting them. The chamber below is smaller than I expected. Maybe 12 feet across. The walls are the same obsidian as the courtyard above, but down here it's been worked, smoothed, and inscribed. Every surface, floor to ceiling, layer over layer of runes and figures, and something that takes me a moment to understand is a record. Not decorative, not protective, narrative. Someone carved an entire story into these walls and then sealed it shut and buried it and spent 200 years hoping nobody with the right blood would ever find it. I touch the wall, and the room ignites, not with fire, with memory. It moves through me like a current and smoke and silver and screaming that has no sound. A man in chains, enormous, alpha-built, his wolf pressing against his eyes like it's trying to escape through them. Another man standing over him, younger, in robes I almost recognize. The chained man looking up, and his voice, when it comes, is not a sound but a vibration in my teeth, saying something in a language I don't speak. But I understand it. I understand it. I come back to myself on my hands and knees on the chamber floor with no memory of falling. My nose is bleeding. The shackles in my left hand are blazing teal, fully lit now, the glow so bright it throws shadows on the inscribed walls around me. My breath is coming in fragments. My wolf is pressed forward so hard behind my eyes that my vision has gone almost fully amber, and she is making a sound I have no name for. Not a howl, not a warning. Something older. Something that sounds, with terrible specificity, like recognition. Above me, I hear boots on stone. Max's voice drops into the pit like a stone. Sabrina, come up, now. I look at the shackles. The glow doesn't dim, doesn't waver. It is not responding to him at all, only to me. Now, he says again, and underneath the command, underneath the king, underneath the billionaire, underneath 3 years of practiced indifference, I hear something I have never once heard from Max Erner in all the time I have known him. Fear. I climb out of the pit. Not because Max told me to, because I've already taken what the chamber had to give. Taken it and folded it somewhere behind my sternum where no one can reach it. And staying down there with my wolf blazing and my nose bleeding and his fear pressing down from above, like a physical weight, is not a position I'm willing to hold. I surface into the gray morning with the shackles wrapped in the hem of my jacket and my face arranged into the particular blankness I've spent 3 years perfecting. The expression that says, I am nothing. I have found nothing. There is nothing here that concerns a king. Max watches me come up. He is close, closer than he's allowed himself to be in 3 years, and the mate bond scar tissue responds to his proximity with its usual treachery. that pull in my sternum stretching toward him like it hasn't received the notification that we are not each other's concern. I keep my eyes on the ground past his shoulder. I don't trust myself with his face at close range. I never have. "What's in your jacket?" he says. Not a question. "Nothing that belongs to you." The silence that follows has a texture. I walk past him. He doesn't stop me. Those 4 Iron Claw operatives watch me move through the demolition perimeter with the focused attention of men cataloging details. My gait, my hands, the slight asymmetry in how I'm holding my jacket closed. I keep walking. 30 meters. 60. I don't look back until the tree line swallows me. And my shack is 20 minutes through the eastern forest, and I run most of it. I spread the shackles on my workbench under the single good light and make myself breathe. Slow and deliberate, the way Arthur Vance taught me to breathe during a scent read, when the information is coming faster than the mind can comfortably process. I learned a long time ago that panic is just data moving too quickly. You slow it down, or it buries you. I start with the right cuff, the exterior face. The runes circle the outer edge in a band, dense, archaic, the same script layered across the chamber walls below. I don't speak old Lycan, barely anyone does anymore. Max's court employs 2 historians who can read fragments of it, and they work exclusively for the crown. But the symbols, the carved figures interspersed between the written lines, those I can parse without translation. A wolf in chains, an empty throne, a crown held by a hand above the figure that should be wearing it. Standard historical imagery for usurpation. I've seen variations of it in the Pack Archive's older collections. Cautionary carvings, the historians always said. Fictional warnings. Symbolic. I turn the cuff over, and the breath leaves my body. On the interior face, the face that would rest against skin, that would press against the pulse point of whoever this was built to hold. There is a single mark, not a rune, not a figure, a crest. My crest. The same mark was stamped into the wax seal of every letter my grandmother sent before she died. The same figure she carved into the doorframe of this shack when I inherited it, pressing her thumb into the wet wood and saying, "This means you belong here, regardless of what anyone above you decides." I never fully understood what she meant. I thought she meant the forest, the outskirts, the particular dignity of a life lived outside other people's approval. I understand it now. The people these shackles were built to hold, the people they were used to break, they were mine, my bloodline, my alphas, which means Max Erner's ancestors didn't build a dynasty. They stole one, and the rejection, the 6 flat words, the turned shoulder, the 3 years of deliberate erasure. It was never about me being too little. It was about my blood being too much. A twig snaps outside my window. One, precise. The kind of sound that isn't made by anything that weighs less than a large man in tactical boots. I don't move. I don't look up. I keep my eyes on the crest beneath my thumb, and I breathe, slow and deliberate. And I think about the 4 Iron Claw operatives who were cataloging my gait an hour ago. They didn't go back to the estate. They followed me home. I don't hide the shackles. There isn't time. And something in me, the part that has spent 3 years shrinking, accommodating, making myself navigable for people who never extended the same courtesy, that part decides quietly and without ceremony that it is finished hiding things in its own home. I wrap the shackles in cloth and set them in the hollow beneath the floorboard under my bed. Not hidden. placed. The distinction matters to me right now in a way I can't fully articulate. Then I sit at my workbench and I wait. It takes 11 minutes. I count them. The footsteps outside multiply from 1 set to 3, then 5, circling the shack with the patience of men who've done this before, establishing positions, covering exits, the quiet choreography of a team that doesn't expect resistance, but prepares for it anyway. Professional courtesy, I suppose. The knock, when it comes, is almost polite. I open the door. Max fills the frame. Not physically. He's not the largest Lycan I've known. It's something else. The way he occupies a space. The way a room reorganizes its own geometry around him without being asked. He's removed the jacket. The white shirt underneath is construction dusty at the cuffs, sleeves rolled to the elbow, and the contrast of it. Billionaire disorder, controlled and deliberate even in dishevelment, does something complicated to my chest that I refuse to name. Behind his left shoulder stands Silas Draven. I've seen Silas at estate functions. Everyone has. He's Max's lead enforcer, Ironclaw Syndicate's operational commander, the man who ensures that what the king decides happens, happens. He is blonde and lean and carries a stillness that doesn't read as calm. It reads as compression. Something held very tightly in a container that's slightly too small for it. His eyes move over my shack with the systematic efficiency of an inventory, and when they reach me, they stay a half second too long. Something about that half second bothers me. Sabrina, Max says. I've already heard my name from you once today, I tell him. It doesn't get better with repetition. His jaw tightens, a small movement. On another man, it would be insignificant. He steps inside without being invited. He could smell the shackles before he knocked. That was the problem. Had been the problem since the moment he watched her surface from the pit with her jacket held wrong and her face arranged in that specific blankness she thought was invisible. She'd always believed she was better at hiding than she was. Or maybe he'd always been better at watching than she knew. The silver was old enough that its signature had faded to almost nothing, but his wolf caught the edge of it the moment she walked past him, and his wolf had been not calm about it. Not calm at all. The mate bond pull was worse in close quarters. He knew it would be. He'd been managing it for 3 years with distance and discipline, keeping her at the precise periphery where his wolf could confirm she was alive and safe without the proximity triggering the full weight of what he'd refused. Walking into her shack was tactically inadvisable. Silas had offered to send someone else. Max had said no before the sentence finished. He needed to see her face when she lied to him. He needed to know how much she understood. Because if Sabrina had found what he believed she'd found, if the vault of the Shadow Pack had opened for her specifically, if the bloodline link was confirmed, then the situation had moved from inconvenient to existential. For the crown, for the dynasty, for the carefully constructed version of history that the entire Earner Empire was built upon. And for her, whether she understood it yet or not. What Silas did with threats to the crown was not something Max could always predict, much less control. He stops in the center of my single room and looks at me. The mate bond scar tissue is screaming. At this distance, it's not a pull anymore. It's a full-body gravitational argument. Every nerve I have voting unanimously for a closeness I will not allow myself. I wonder if he feels it too. I've always wondered. His rejection was so clean, so deliberate that sometimes I convince myself his wolf never chose me at all, that I invented the whole thing out of loneliness and wishful biology. Then I see his hands. His right hand is closed into a fist at his side, not in anger. The specific tension of a person holding themselves very still against an impulse. "Give me what you took from the pit," he says. Quiet. Controlled. There's nothing here that belongs to you. Everything on this estate belongs to me. Then take me to court over it, I say. Oh, wait, your court, your judges, your laws? I hold his gaze for the first time. No, I don't think I'll be surrendering anything today, Max. His name in my mouth does something to his expression that he doesn't fully suppress. A fracture, small and immediately repaired, but I see it. Silas shifts behind him. My king, Silas says. The title lands with a subtle edge that I file away immediately. We're burning daylight. Max holds my gaze for 3 more seconds, and in those 3 seconds, something moves behind his eyes that I don't have a name for. Something that looks, in a way I'm not prepared for, almost like an apology. Then he turns and walks out. He doesn't take the shackles. He doesn't give the order to search the shack. He simply leaves, and that is worse than any threat he could have made, because it means he's already decided on a different approach. Quieter, more considered. I listen to 5 sets of boots move away through the forest. Then I look at Silas's retreating outline through my window, and I think about that half second when his eyes stayed on me too long, not with the attention of a man following his king's interest, with the attention of a man making a separate calculation entirely. Arthur Vance lived in a converted church on the edge of Pack territory, the kind of building that had been abandoned by everyone except history itself. When I knocked, he opened the door 3 inches. The chain was still on. I know what you brought, he said. His voice was brittle glass. And I know what it means you've found. I lifted the shackles. Moonlight caught the edges. His breath stopped. Let me in, Arthur, please. The chain slid off. He didn't look at me as I walked past him into the nave. Books lined every wall, floor to ceiling, some stacked in columns that threatened to collapse. The smell was paper and silver polish and fear. They killed the last archivist, he said. Didn't ask me to sit, didn't offer water, just stood there, hands trembling. Marcus Hale, 1987. They said it was a car accident. He finally met my eyes. It wasn't. I set the shackles on the altar, the only surface not covered in documents. Tell me what they were afraid he'd say. Arthur moved like a man walking to his own execution. He pulled a leather-bound ledger from behind a loose panel in the wall. The pages crackled when he opened it. The Silver Purge, he whispered. 1826. Your ancestors, the original Alpha line, they didn't just rule this territory. They were the territory. The land chose them. The moon answered to them. His finger traced a faded diagram. And then the syndicate came. The Iron Claw Syndicate. The name alone made my wolf bare her teeth. They couldn't kill your line, Arthur continued. The moon wouldn't allow it, so they did something worse. He turned the page. An illustration of the shackles stared back at me. They bound them, imprisoned them beneath what would become the Forbidden Ruins, and they installed their own Alpha. My throat closed. Max's family. Every Thornwood for 200 years, Arthur said. A lie wearing a crown. I stared at the shackles, at the runes carved into silver that had held gods. What happens if they're broken? Arthur's hand shook so violently that the ledger almost fell. The shackles aren't just restraints, they're a seal. They were designed to be snapped, but only at a lunar-charged surface. Moon Peak, specifically, the stone circle where alphas are crowned. And then... He looked at me like I'd asked him to describe his own death. Then the truth activates. Every wolf in 100 miles will feel it. The moon will know. And the false alpha... He couldn't finish. His power collapses. I finished for him. Arthur nodded, closed the ledger. When he spoke again, his voice was barely audible. They'll kill me for telling you this, Sabrina. Just like they killed Marcus. I picked up the shackles. They were warm now, alive. Then we make sure, I said quietly, that it's worth it. Here's what no one tells you about uncovering the truth. It doesn't set you free. It makes you dangerous. I didn't go home that night. Home was a target now, and I'd stopped being prey the moment I touched those shackles. Instead, I drove to the overlook where Max had rejected me. I don't know why. Maybe I'm a masochist. Maybe I needed to remember what it felt like to be small. The shackles sat in my lap, heavy and cold. I traced the runes again. My family crest, the moon phases, the names I didn't recognize, but my wolf did. And then something shifted. The metal warmed. Not gradually, all at once, like it had been dipped in blood. The runes began to glow, faint silver light bleeding into the dark. I should have dropped them. I didn't. The vision hit like a fist to the sternum. I was standing in the same place, but it wasn't now. The trees were younger, the sky was darker, and Max was there. Not the Max I knew. Younger, terrified. His hands were shaking as he looked at me, at the version of me that existed in this memory, this echo. I can't, he said. His voice cracked. Sabrina, I can't. Why? My voice, but not mine, stronger, steadier, a version of me that hadn't been broken yet. Because they'll kill you? He stepped closer. His wolf was in his eyes, gold bleeding through. My father, the syndicate. If I claim you, if the bond completes, they'll know what you are. What am I? The rightful alpha. He said it like a confession, like a death sentence. Your bloodline survived. It shouldn't have, but it did. And if you awaken, if the mate bond triggers your full power, everything my family built collapses. I watched myself take a step back, watched the realization dawn. You're choosing them, I whispered. I'm saving your life. By destroying it. My voice didn't shake. It should have. Say the words, Max. If you're going to break me, at least have the courage to watch. And he did. He looked me in the eyes and spoke the rejection. Every syllable carved into my bones, into the shackles I would find 2 years later, into this exact moment where I was forced to relive it. But here's what I saw that I hadn't seen before. His wolf fought him the whole time. Gold eyes flickering, claws extending and retracting, the bond screaming against the words coming out of his mouth. He rejected me. His wolf never did. The vision released me. I gasped, the lungs burning as I'd been underwater. The shackles were ice cold now, dormant again. I sat there in the dark, hands shaking, and felt something crack open inside my chest. Not forgiveness, understanding, which was somehow worse, because now I knew he'd been afraid. And fear makes cowards of us all. but I was done being afraid. A sound pulled me from my thoughts. Low, rhythmic, breathing. I turned. A woman stood at the edge of the overlook. Silver hair, eyes like the moon. She wasn't solid. I could see the stars through her shoulders, but she was there. Real in the way ghosts are real when they have something left to say. "Sabrina Thorne," she said. Her voice was an echo of an echo. "Daughter of the true line." My wolf rose to the surface. I didn't fight her. "Who are you?" "I am what remains." She looked at the shackles in my lap. I was the last to wear them. Elena Thorne, your great-great-great-grandmother." The air left my lungs. "They bound us," Elena continued, her form flickering. "But they couldn't erase us. We've been waiting. 2 centuries in the dark, in the silver, in the blood of every daughter who carried the line forward without knowing." "Waiting for what?" She smiled. It was sad and fierce and utterly unbroken. "For you." I smelled the smoke before I saw it. By the time I crested the ridge and saw my shack, what was left of it, the flames were already eating through the roof. I didn't run toward it. There was nothing left to save. The Ironclaw Syndicate's calling card was nailed to the oak tree 50 feet from the pyre. A silver claw, still wet with something that wasn't paint. Arthur's blood. I knew it without checking. Knew it the way you know a storm is coming before the first drop falls. They'd gotten to him first. My wolf surged. I let her. Felt my bones shift. My vision sharpen. The world narrowing to scent and sound, and the shackles still gripped in my 2 human hands. I was done hiding. I was done running. I was done crying for a man who was afraid of me. The fire collapsed inward. Embers spiraled into the sky like dying stars. I watched my entire life burn and felt nothing but clarity. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered without speaking. "We have files on your entire bloodline." The voice was smooth, male, unfamiliar. "Birth records, death certificates, every daughter who died young, every son who disappeared. We've been tracking the Thorn line since 1826. "Who is this?" "Someone who's been waiting a long time to meet you, Sabrina. The last daughter. The one who finally found the shackles." I looked at the flames, at the claw, at the ruin of everything I'd built to survive. "You killed Arthur." He talked when he should have stayed quiet, just like Marcus before him. A pause. "You should have learned from their mistakes." "Where is he?" "Alive, for now. Whether he stays that way depends entirely on your next move." My wolf was screaming. I held her back with teeth and will and 2 centuries of buried rage. "What do you want?" "The shackles, obviously." He sounded amused. "But more than that, we want you to disappear. Leave the territory, change your name. Live whatever pathetic little life you can scrape together somewhere far from here." "And if I don't?" "Then we do to you what we did to every other Thorn who got too close to the truth." The line went dead. I stood there, phone in one hand, shackles in the other, and felt Elena's ghost voice whisper through the smoke. "For you. Not for revenge. Not for justice. For the truth that 200 years of violence couldn't bury." I turned away from the fire and started walking. Not away from the fight, toward it. The message arrived at dawn. Not from the Syndicate this time. From Max. "Bring the shackles to Lunar Peak. Tonight. Midnight. Come alone, or Arthur Vance doesn't see morning." I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand, because I was trying to find the Max I used to know in those words. And couldn't. This wasn't a strategy. This was desperation. A king doesn't take hostages. A king commands. But a man watching his kingdom crumble, a man who knows his crown is borrowed and his time is running out, that man makes threats he can't afford to follow through on. I could see it now, the architecture of his fear. The syndicate was pressing him. Silas, his enforcer, his father's shadow, was circling, waiting for weakness. And I had surfaced with the one artifact that could unmask them all. Max wasn't trying to protect his power. He was trying to survive it. I looked at the shackles. Elena's voice was quieter now, but still there, woven into the silver like a heartbeat. "What would you do?" I whispered. The answer came not in words, but in a memory. Elena, walking into the stone circle at Lunar Peak, shackles already on her wrists. Facing the syndicate. Facing the usurpers. Facing her own death with her chin up and her wolf burning in her eyes. She didn't run. She made them see her. I dressed simply. Jeans. Boots. A jacket that wouldn't restrict movement if I had to shift. The shackles went into my backpack, close enough to feel their weight, far enough that I could move freely. Arthur's life was on the line, but so was the truth. And the truth didn't negotiate. Lunar Peak sat at the highest point in the territory, a natural amphitheater of stone, ancient and moon-scarred. This was where alphas were crowned, where challenges were settled, where blood met earth and the pack bore witness. I arrived early. Max was already there. He stood at the center of the circle, hands in his pockets, the image of casual power. But I could see the tension in his shoulders. The way his wolf was too close to the surface. The way he didn't quite meet my eyes when I stepped into the clearing. Silas was there too. Off to the side, arms crossed, watching us both with the patience of a predator who knows the kill is inevitable. And Arthur, bound, gagged, kneeling at the edge of the stone circle. Alive, barely. "You came," Max said. "Did you think I wouldn't?" He finally looked at me, and for a second, just one, I saw the boy from the vision, the one who'd been too afraid to choose me. He was still afraid. "Give me the shackles, Sabrina." "Why? So you can bury them again? Pretend they don't exist?" "So we can all survive." His voice dropped. "The syndicate doesn't want exposure. They want control. If you activate those shackles, if you unmask my family in front of the pack, they'll kill everyone who knows. Starting with Arthur, ending with you." "And you?" I asked. "What do you want?" He hesitated. Silas shifted in the shadows. "I want," Max said slowly, "for you to walk away." I took a step forward. The shackles hummed in my pack. 200 years, I said. 200 years, your family wore a crown that wasn't theirs. Built a legacy on stolen power. And you want me to walk away? I want you to live. His voice cracked on the last word, and I understood. This wasn't about the throne. It had never been. This was about the mate bond he couldn't sever. The pull he'd been fighting for 2 years. The wolf inside him that had never stopped reaching for mine. "Then let Arthur go," I said quietly, "and I'll decide what my life is worth." Silas stepped forward. "She's stalling, Max. She's not going to give them up." Max's jaw tightened. "Let him go." Silas didn't move. "That's an order," Max said, and in that moment, I saw the crack, the one Silas had been waiting for. "Orders," Silas said softly, "only matter when you're still alpha." The pack arrived like shadows. I didn't hear them coming. One moment, it was just the 4 of us. Max, Silas, Arthur, and me in a standoff older than any of our lives. And the next, the stone circle was ringed with wolves, human forms, wolf forms, everything in between. Silas had called them. Of course, he had. This wasn't a negotiation anymore. This was a trial. "You wanted witnesses, Max," Silas said, voice carrying across the clearing. "Here they are. Now let's see if your rejected mate is brave enough to tell them what she found." Max's wolf surged. I could see it in his eyes. Gold bleeding through, claws extending. He was losing control. And Silas knew it. The pack watched, silent, waiting. I looked at Arthur. He met my eyes, nodded once. "Do it." I pulled the shackles from my pack. The moonlight hit them, and the runes ignited. Silver fire, cold and absolute, illuminating every face in the circle. The pack recoiled. Some shifted involuntarily, others dropped to their knees. Even Silas took a step back. "What?" someone whispered. "The binding shackles," I said. My voice didn't shake. "Forged 200 years ago by the Iron Claw Syndicate. Used to imprison the rightful Alpha line. The Thorns." Murmurs rippled through the pack. "That's a lie," Silas snarled. "Is it?" I held up the shackles. "Then why do they bear my family crest? Why do they respond to my touch and no one else's?" I walked to the center of the stone circle. The lunar-charged surface thrummed beneath my feet. Every wolf could feel it. The power, the anticipation, the inevitability of what came next. Max Thornwood's family didn't earn this crown, I continued. They stole it, and they've been killing my bloodline ever since to keep the secret buried. Max was silent. His eyes locked on mine. He could have denied it, could have used his alpha command to silence me, could have let Silas tear me apart. He didn't. "Do it," he said quietly. Silas turned on him. "What?" I said. Max's voice rose, cutting through the clearing like a blade. "Do it, Sabrina. If the shackles can prove the truth, then prove it." The pack went still. I knelt at the center of the circle, pressed the shackles against the stone, and snapped them. The pulse hit like a shockwave, light, blinding, silver, ancient. It poured from the broken shackles and slammed outward in every direction, through the pack, through the trees, through the territory itself. Every wolf felt it, and every wolf knew. Max collapsed, not in pain, in release. His alpha form, the borrowed crown, the hollow authority, the power that had never truly belonged to him, shattered. I watched it happen, watched the golden glow drain from his eyes, watched his wolf shrink back to its true size. He was still a wolf, still powerful, but he wasn't the alpha. The pack turned to me, all of them, at once. I felt it rise, not from the shackles, but from inside me, the power that had always been there, dormant, waiting. My wolf surfaced, fully, completely, and she was a queen. The pack bowed, one by one, then all at once, dropping to their knees in the ancient stone circle under a moon that had been waiting 2 centuries to witness this moment. Even Silas, forced down by the truth in his blood. Only Max remained standing. He looked at me, broken, stripped, free. And then he did something I didn't expect. He reached for me, not as an alpha, not as a king, as a man who'd been afraid for too long and was finally, desperately, ready to stop running. "Sabrina." I stepped back. His hand dropped. "Not yet," I said softly. "You chose fear once. I need to know you can choose me when it matters." He nodded, eyes wet, wolf howling, and I walked away from the stone circle, not fleeing, not broken, departing as a queen who knew her worth, 3 weeks later, the pack rebuilt what the syndicate burned. My home, Arthur's archive, the history that had been buried for 200 years. The Iron Claw syndicate vanished the night the shackles broke. Some said they fled. Some said they were hunted. I didn't ask. Silas was exiled. No trial needed. The pack decided his fate the moment the truth came to light. And Max? He stayed. Not as Alpha, not as King. As a man learning how to kneel. I saw him sometimes at the edge of pack gatherings. Quiet, watchful, waiting for permission he knew better than to demand. The mate bond was still there, frayed, damaged, but alive. Some bonds break clean, others scar. Ours was learning to heal. On the first full moon after my coronation, I stood at Lunar Peak alone. The broken shackles lay at my feet. No longer a prison, but a monument. Elena's ghost appeared beside me one last time. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," I corrected. She smiled and faded, not gone, released. I heard footsteps behind me, knew who it was before I turned. Max stopped 10 feet away, respectful distance, hopeful eyes. "Can I?" He gestured to the space beside me. I nodded. He approached slowly, sat beside me on the cold stone, didn't touch, didn't assume. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said quietly. "I know I don't deserve it." "Good," I replied, "because I'm not offering it, not yet." He nodded, looked out at the territory spread below us, the pack that was mine now, the truth that had been excavated, the future that was no longer written by fear. "What are you asking for?" I asked. He turned to me, and for the first time in 2 years, I saw him without the crown, without the lie, without the weight of a legacy that had never belonged to him. "A chance," he said, "to earn you, not the mate bond, not the prophecy. You, the woman who survived everything I broke and still chose to stand." My wolf stirred, not in acceptance, in consideration. "I'll think about it," I said. He smiled, small, broken, real. "That's more than I hoped for." We sat there as the moon climbed higher, not touching, not speaking, just existing in the same space without pretense or performance. And for the first time since the rejection, I felt something other than rage or grief, or the hollow ache of a bond severed too soon. I felt possibility. Maybe we'd find our way back to each other. Maybe we wouldn't. But either way, I was no longer waiting for him to choose me. I had already chosen myself. Here's what they don't tell you about reclaiming your power. It doesn't fix everything, unless it doesn't erase the scars. It doesn't make the people who hurt you suddenly worthy of the space they used to occupy in your heart. But it gives you something more valuable than any of that, a choice. And I chose to walk away from the ruins, not as a victim, as a queen.